going on there, guys? We back with another one, and today we got to talk a little bit about Ja Morant and everything that's been going on with him. Obviously, Zion Williams and his South Carolina brethren is in the news with him, but all indications is this is more so a moment of shame and embarrassment with some of Zion's skeletons. But as far as missing basketball games next year, that would be determined by his health and if he's ready to go. Ja Morant, on the other hand, may miss some significant time with his team. And we're going to look at the press run that Adam Silver has been on, because every platform that he's come on to speak, he's been asked about this Ja Morant thing. You have to remember, at the start of the finals, there were like 3 questions from the media asking about what's going to happen with Ja Morant. Do you have a suspension? And then, Stephen A. asked him. Then several podcasts, they asked him. Then, the NBA crew asked him again. So this is something that he's talking about, and we may only be one game from it now. That's why I wanted to wait a little bit. But we're going to look back at a lot of the things that was said during Adam Silver's press run. And then I want to know what you guys think are going to be the punishment.
Just walked out of the Adam Silver press conference, and a lot of the conversation was about the investigation into Ja Morant. Silver said that the investigation is basically wrapped and that there was, quote, a lot of additional information that has come to light. Now, Silver was also asked whether he thought the initial 8-game suspension that he gave Ja at the end of the regular season was enough, and Silver said, in hindsight, it seems it wasn't, since it did not act as a deterrent. However, he did also ponder, was it 8 games? Should it have been 12 games? It's hard to know in the moment, he said. Here's what we do know. This next suspension looks to be a lot more significant. Silver said that the Players Association and the league office in concert decided that the information would not be released. The result would not come out until after the NBA Finals because they didn't want it to be a distraction. Should we read into that? How long do you think the suspension is going to be? Let me know.
Thank you for being here. We were talking about this last week sometime when you were addressing during the press conference the whole Ja Morant situation. And all of us up here understood why you want to wait until the finals are over to really address that. What I want to ask is, when you consider the kind of decision that you're expected to hand down, it doesn't seem like it's going to be just about Ja Morant. You want to make sure to send a message to the league itself. There's certain things that will and will not be tolerated. Can you speak to that at all?
Well, I think that's right, but I want to be careful only in that my job is to measure that individual's conduct in that moment, and I get a little nervous when people talk about sending a message, because sometimes it implies you may not are being fair to that individual player. But there's no question in this league that there's something called conduct detrimental in the league, and it's not just conduct that may be negative. We want to portray a positive image in terms of our players in this league. So that's, of course, something I take into account.
Is the Ja Morant investigation over? We're just waiting for the finals to be over to announce the decision?
The latter. We are waiting for the finals to be over. I'm aware, of course, of these reports on social media about, whether the gun was in fact a gun. And so we haven't completely wrapped it up.
Does that matter, Commissioner, if that's a toy gun?
It's interesting. It's the very issue is, for Ja, certainly in the first incident, was treating a gun as a toy. I mean, that's what we're talking about. And that's what I think the danger is to society, taking a gun, live streaming it. Because we were both in the meeting with him. The head of the Players Association, Tamika Tremalio, was in the meeting with us. And just honestly, my sense was he was very sincere in how contrite he was, in how serious he was taking the issue. Again, now talking about the first incident where there's no fact in dispute. He was holding a gun, inebriated in a club, waving it, live streaming it. So that's the first go round. He was then live streaming a gun, certainly looks like a gun, a Glock, in a kind of reckless manner. Sure, I was incredibly disappointed. And I want to find a way where, frankly, he's not being kicked to the curb, but basketball will take a back seat.
In assessing what discipline is appropriate, if that's the case, we look at both the history of prior acts, but then we look at the individual player's history as well. And so and the seriousness, of course, of the conduct. So those are all things that get factored. It's not an exact science. It comes down to judgment at the end of the day on the part of me and my colleagues in the league office. In terms of the timing, we've uncovered a fair amount of additional information. Since I was still asked about the situation, I would say we probably could have brought it to a head now, but we made the decision, and I believe the Players Association agrees with us, that it would be unfair to these players and these teams in the middle of the series to announce the results of that investigation. And given that we're, of course, in the off season, he has now been suspended by the Memphis Grizzlies indefinitely, and so nothing would have changed anyway in the next few weeks. It seemed better to park that at the moment, at least any public announcement. And my sense now is that shortly after the conclusion of the finals, we will announce the outcome of that investigation.
I just wanted to rehash that because we're coming down the pipe here. I don't want to say the Heat don't have a chance to win the next game, but Denver has firmly taken control of the series, and they're not one of those teams that beat themselves, and Miami feeds off of that a lot. So we may be getting close to this Ja Morant ruling. And I heard key things in there. I cut out some pieces, obviously, for copyright, but he was saying that he wants Ja to get some help to where basketball takes a back seat. He wants to do different things with Ja because he recognizes he has a problem. But he did say things like, he could see the Glock live stream, and Ja might have hurt himself when his camp came out and said that he was, that was a toy gun that he had, because that's the issue, the very issue that Adam Silver had an issue with the first time, playing with a gun like a toy. So from an optics standpoint, it doesn't matter if it was a toy. It would have to be like a super soaker or something like that, where it's a gun. See, the PIs that the NBA can hire, they can look at the video and tell if it's a real gun or not. So if it's a real gun, that's just another lie. That's not going to help your case either, because they said that Adam Silver, some of the reporters like Stephen A. Smith, Brian Windhorst, some of these other guys says Adam Silver feels like he was lied to the first time, and in the investigation they've uncovered other things. And so when he says things like that, it sounds like the hammer's going to have to come down somewhat, but it does sound like he has a little bit too much empathy sometimes, because if this was David Stern, he might have missed 60, 70 games of the season the first time that happened. This time, no telling what would happen. You know what I'm saying? But he probably would have missed so many games the first time in money, he wouldn't have done it the second time if David Stern was the commissioner. So that, when people say punishments are too harsh, well, yeah, but sometimes a harsh punishment can stop you from coming down this road again. And we ended up here again, not more than, 2 months later. So when I look at that, I think about a David Stern, or, you could see, like, if it didn't work and you would have punished him harshly the first time, then you kind of see that he's not cut out for the league, the professional part of it. He can play the basketball on the court, but as far as being a professional off of it, he probably wouldn't be cut out for it. I feel like if Ja would have walked through a room in his house, if he had like hunting rifles up and he was just live streaming and they were up, behind him on the mantle or whatever, then nobody would have said anything. Obviously there would have been little jokes or whatever from people, but if they were just like hunting rifles or something like that in his own house and he wasn't dangling them, they were just there, nobody would have said anything about him. But I think it's the image and what Ja tries to portray online. It has led us to this point, and I think he's showing them in response to some of the comments he used to get where he was saying it's easy to see how hollows feel. He's allowed himself to become immersed in back and forths with everyday common people on Twitter, and he's internalized it and let it bother him to the point where he knows they're watching his live stream and he wants to show it. Now a week ago he unfollowed Devontae Pack, so maybe that's something. Maybe that's just PR. He's gonna have to unfollow some people in real life too. That'll be the next step for him. He's got to unfollow a few people around him in real life, and it ain't no hard feelings, but he cannot squander any more than he's already squandered. He's already hurt his marketability. I think he could get it back, but instead of it taking a few months like it would have taken just that first time, it's probably gonna take some few years to get it back. High level play, doing positive things in the community, embracing the fact that you had to change from what you had to change from. I'm always gonna be Ja. That mentality, like, yeah, you're gonna always be Ja, but for his marketability, he's gonna have to embrace the change to this one aspect of his life. And so, man, yeah, when I look at Adam Silver, when I hear the things he's saying, it sounds like it'll be a little bit more severe punishment, but I can't really make a read on it. It could be very severe, and this could just be his he probably want us not to know. So he probably controls his emotions and the way he responds. But some of it feels like Ja may only get the punishment he should have got the first time, this second time. And I think that's what many in the league are afraid of. But when he talks about his disappointment, it seems like it could be close to the season. So I really don't have a good read on it. And we're going to get this news regardless next week sometime. So I want to know what you guys think about this in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, peace.